Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Eleutheria, where we talk about all things liberty. And today we're going to be discussing Women's Day and what it actually means in the context of South African history. And it seems to be like the left are really having a good old time of rewriting history. So I just wanted to introduce my lovely guest. No, that side. There's Maryke. You may recognize her from some other live streams that she's been on. She still doesn't have her own YouTube channel, but I think by the end of the year we might convince her to do it. Maryke?
I've already got all the equipment. I just need a man to show me how to use it.
Okay, so Maryke is still doing the I'm single thing, and she's looking for a man that can handle her. So if you're man enough, maybe send Maryke a DM on Facebook or something, because but I must warn you, this is one hell of an independent woman, so just make sure you're man enough for it.
Yes, Beth, thank you so much for having me on, and hello to all our lovely viewers, guys and girls and people. We are really going to try very hard not to offend anybody, but if you are offended, then too bad. Grow a bear.
Yeah, you know, we don't aim to be offensive. We actually just aim to educate. And you know, my channel subtitle is Enlighten South Africa Through Liberty. And I believe that that is very important. And that's why I prefer to talk about topics where maybe the mainstream narrative is getting it not quite on point. So that's why I decided to do this live stream. And Maryke, thank you for agreeing to join me on this live stream and for always supporting this channel and sharing it whenever you can. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's definitely important that normal ideas, what we consider run-of-the-mill and common sense ideas, get reintroduced into mainstream media. Very important not to let it get lost in the quagmire that is leftist loonyism.
No, I couldn't agree with that more. I think, I think my main reason for wanting to do this as well is I'm raising boys and a girl, and like I want them to, like, I don't want either of them to feel that they're somehow superior because of their bits, because YouTube will suppress us if we use the correct terms. But I don't want either of them to feel like they're less than the next person because they identify as female or male or whatever. I am bringing them up in a traditional sense, probably a little bit more progressive than what my own parents did. But I think that's also just a sign of the times in terms of what we have available as far as technology and stuff goes. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you break it down, no gender or sex or whatever can be superior to the other, because it's like, maybe a bad analogy, but like a puzzle piece. Not one puzzle piece is superior to another puzzle piece. You need both pieces to get the whole picture. It's not something about men are better than women, or women should be given more fair chances or something. Men can't go on without women, and women can't go on without men. The human race will go extinct if everybody is suddenly equal, and you don't need children. I mean, if the next best thing is children are unnecessary, what's going to happen to the human race? We work together. We need each other. Men need women, Women need men, men need men, women need women. It's a complicated social phenomenon that actually shouldn't be quantified. It's just, it is what it is, and it's been like that for 6,000 or more years, and it's been working so far. So don't mess with it. That's just my opinion.
You know, the current narrative is just, it's so disturbing on so many levels, because people are, I really think we're just taking things to the extreme and pandering probably to a minority, and a minority that might actually not necessarily exist. So, you know, I'm busy reading a book called Irreversible Damage by Abigail Schreier, and it's about basically a contagion of transgenderism amongst adolescents. And I don't, you know, the research that she's done into this book points to the fact that actually these ideas are being planted in these young girls' heads. It's not necessarily real. And we're going to, if we don't start talking up about it, we're going to end up with a whole generation that cannot give birth. And then, yeah, that'll be the end of the human race. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was thinking today, maybe you can argue that it's some weird undercover way to control the population. It's not so obvious. I mean, if you promote being gay and lesbian and transgender and, you know, all those things, then you are not procreating. You are not furthering the human race. You can adopt somebody else's babies, but eventually there's going to be a decline. And this is also not something that is prevalent in all cultures. So the cultures that are not plagued by these transgender things will continue as normal. So there will always be people, but it's just eventually there's going to be one culture that is overflowing the globe, and somebody is going to be in the minority.
Yes, and at the moment, this is definitely a middle class problem in Northern America and the United Kingdom as well. And those are countries that are already showing a decline in the birth rate. Apparently, even teenage pregnancy is on the decline, like drastically so. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it all ties into the bigger picture of the problem that we're now looking at. It's a symptom of the problem that we're looking at, because we're talking about teenagers that have not experimented with their sexuality, so they don't actually know what they are because they have no experience, but they're doing things that will permanently alter their bodies. And that's where it starts getting scary. But yeah, we've digressed from what women's day actually is quite a bit.
We need to get back to why men are great.
Yes, men are great. And even the women that marched on to the Union buildings on the 9th of August in 1956 thought that men were great. Because, yes, the women were protesting the fact that African people had to carry a pass. But women from all races, all walks of life, marched to the Union buildings and delivered a petition. There was over 20,000 women that participated in that march. And they delivered the petition, and then they stood in silence for half an hour, complete silence, before they sang a song which translated, I'm not going to try and pronounce the African language, translated said, now they've adapted it to say you strike a woman, you strike a rock. But I think it was you touch a woman and you strike a rock, or something like that. So that was quite a powerful message that they delivered, and they delivered it in a peaceful way, and almost it was a silent protest that they did. But they didn't just do it for themselves. They did it because they actually feared for their husbands' safety and for their male children's safety. It wasn't just about women. But now I see everything on the internet is trying to paint a different picture. So,
yeah, I mean, women need to protect their men, and men need to protect their women. It is a two-way street. You sometimes get that in the animal kingdom. You know, people flock around the alpha animal for protection, because they realize that the alpha is their leader, and the leader needs to be protected. So whether you are an alpha male or an alpha female, your colony will swarm to protect you, because they actually need leadership. And women, they say that women are the weaker sex, but I like to say we are the fairer sex. We are supposed to be feminine. We are supposed to be more emotional, less aggressive, the caring type. That is what we are biologically programmed to be and to do. And as such, the desire to protect your children, to protect your man, it's ingrained, and you can't fight it. And similarly, men will protect their women, their mother, their sisters, their daughters, their wives, the women in their community. That is what a man is supposed to do. I mean, there's threats from all walks of life, and it's emotional, it's spiritual, it's physical. You don't need physical strength, or just physical strength, but you need emotional strength as well. And women are incredibly strong emotionally and mentally. We have to deal with a lot of things that aren't necessarily public, or that we don't like to talk about, or that people might think is not a great problem. But throughout the ages, women have been strong. There are many, many, many instances of women rising to the occasion, doing what men are doing, and also doing what women are supposed to be doing. Women did fight in wars. They were on the front lines. They did not shirk away from those challenges. They traveled with men through cold places and harsh places. I mean, if women were really that weak, the human race would not exist. And it's the same thing now. Women are not weak. I don't think we need to focus on the vulnerability of women. I think it's been overblown. I think women can generally take care of ourselves without the help of leftist media saying how horrible men are to us.
absolutely.
I don't think that's a South Africa has a 50-50, more or less a 50-50 split between men and women. And it's absolutely not true that every man hates every woman in South Africa. That just is not possible. Men are not by nature women haters.
No, they're not.
Women are not by nature men haters. Not all men are trash. Some are, but not all are. And to generalize is awful.
It is, and it's harmful. And I worry about the message that our youth are getting, because if you think about it, our children, I'm speaking for myself here because I am aware that you do not have children, but children are growing up basically with a smartphone in their hands, and they are seeing these messages wherever they go online. or there's headlines up on lampposts or stuff like that. And I worry about the message that they're receiving. I worry about the message that our daughters are receiving, that no, you can never trust a man. Okay. And I worry about the message that boys are receiving, that, you know, they're trash. And because they were born with a penis, they do not, you know, they're less than their female counterparts. And I don't like that. Don't like that message at all.
No.
As a mom of both genders, I don't like it, and I worry about it.
No, and it's absolutely, it's wrong. Men and women are different, and we need to be raised according to our differences. Men need to be taught to respect women, and women need to be taught to respect men. It is a two-way street. You cannot claim that you can smack your man around and he can't do anything to you because you are a woman. And if he strikes back, it's abuse. It doesn't work that way. If you are constantly belittling and insulting and gaslighting your man, I'm sorry, but then you are a piece of trash. You don't respect
Absolutely.
your man. It is a two-way. It's a two-way street, and that message gets lost. It's very important to, and it's important to know that men do not need to take that abuse, but them being so strong and the image that is out there that men can't be hurt or they should suck it up, that's wrong. Men also do have emotions. They don't show it, but I mean, come on, we are all human. Men need to be respected. That is how they are programmed. They need to take care of their women, and if you undermine that, you are actually making trouble for yourself.
Yeah, I think what I don't understand about the mainstream narrative is they're saying that men are toxic and that this is toxic masculinity because you're not allowed to show your emotions and all of that. But at the same time, those men still don't feel safe enough to show their emotions because they get ridiculed when they do, or they get told that they're overreacting, or I don't know, pick an insult because that's what they get. So, like, they can't have it both ways. These lefties, they need to figure out what they're doing and like somehow meet somewhere in the middle, because like, yeah, what they do now is they keep us doing more damage.
Yes, definitely.
You're absolutely right that there are plenty of abusive women that are out there, and the only difference is that usually the woman is emotionally abusive, not physically abusive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that is absolutely awful, because the signs are not visible. It's like depression. The signs are not visible. You as a man know that your wife or your woman disrespects you, but you don't go to work with a black eye. You don't have cuts on your arms where you defended yourself from her slashing steak knives, and it builds up. It builds up and it builds up, and they can't, or they think they're not supposed to deal with it. They should just man up, and then eventually something snaps, and the worst happens, or he decides he had enough and he walks away, and he gets labeled scumbag because he walks out of the house. He leaves his wife behind, and meantime, nobody actually knew about the abuse that he was going through. But kudos for him. If your woman doesn't respect you, and she's not willing to see your side of the story, then absolutely you should get out. And the same with women. If your man is abusive, if he likes to smack you around, or insult you or belittle you and don't appreciate your efforts, then maybe you should actually consider that you might be with the wrong man and move on, move out and move on. It is incredibly difficult to get out of such a relationship. But that is where strength and courage and a support base, a great support base, come in. And that is about the only good thing that I don't want to say the government, but that society can do, is to set up centers for abused women and basically also abused men. And people need to feel free to go to such places, and they shouldn't fear retribution or ridicule. I mean, it's not a shame to get out of something like that. It's an amazing, courageous step that you have to take, because you basically give up everything to start over. But it's for your own safety at the end of the day.
Yes, I 100% agree with that. It's actually very sad that there's only one person that I can think of, and I don't even know, I can't think of his name right now, that is actually working within this space to help abused men or men that have been in abusive situations. And it's not just men, it's boys as well, because he was involved with all the stories that were happening at Parktown Boys. He's actually stepped in and is helping the boys that were abused. So, that's a point of reference if people want to look up who it is. Just look at who advocating in that story for the boys that were abused. So, yeah, it's men are very prideful, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. It's not a bad characteristic to have at all. But it can be very difficult for them to admit that they need help. And a lot of women have the same problem as well. Like, they don't want to admit that maybe they made a mistake by getting into the relationship that they're in, and they find that it is abusive and they now want to leave. It can be pride, and it can also be that you feel like nobody would believe you or nobody would support you or whatever. And you need to remember that that's your abuser that's told you that. They have groomed you into believing that. So if you're in a relationship and you're seeing red flags because someone is trying to alienate you from your support structure, they're trying to tell you that you're worthless, I think just take stock and maybe leave now before things get really bad, because it's a lot of stepping stones before it gets to a point where the physical abuse happens, or it gets to a point where you actually realize that maybe this is abuse. There's stepping stones before it gets there. So, just take stock and be aware that, somebody's telling you that you're worthless, someone that should be loving you unconditionally and telling you and building you up instead of tearing you down. Maybe you need to reassess your relationship.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, couples argue. Well, definitely, because somebody is going to want this and the other person is going to want that, but that is something that they should sort out between themselves. And the argument does not have to get violent, but that is also where you have to communicate with your significant other, and the significant other should not take things personally. Really listen to what the other person is saying and take it in before you just take it on as a personal attack. I mean, men might not be at home for a good part of the day because they are working. And in the man's mind, he is providing for his family because he goes out and he makes the money, or he goes out hunting or whatever, brings back the bacon, literally. And that is, in his mind, he's providing for his family. So now he comes home and he's tired and he doesn't want to help with the kids and he doesn't want to mow the lawn or whatever. And the wife might get upset about it, and but talk about it. If I think this is mostly a problem with high earning men, the corporate dudes that work for 12, 13, 14 hours a day. They come home and they're still working. They work over weekends. They still think that they are providing. So if you care for your spouse, have a chat, sit back, take stock, talk about things. Don't belittle your man's efforts if he is away from home, unless you suspect that he might be away from home for other reasons. Yes. Listen, communicate, speak to each other, make time for each other. It's not an easy thing. It's not as straightforward as I might make it seem. But if you really love somebody else, you will take the time out to try and put yourself in their shoes and have a little understanding and have a little respect for what the other person is trying to do. And if you are a housewife and your husband thinks you don't do anything all day, especially if you're also raising kids, listen, dude, your wife is working very hard to keep you happy.
I think that possibly lockdown has educated a few spouses that work outside the home versus spouses that work inside the home, whether that be paid work or unpaid labor.
Yeah.
I think lockdown definitely has educated those people, and I think we are going to start seeing some perceptions changed. I've been very fortunate with my husband, and he told me straight, I can't. No, you can do that. I'll carry on earning a salary. Thank you.
It's what's good for one person isn't going to work for the next. So don't judge people on where and how they choose to earn their salary or raise their children. So you've got to find something that works for you. Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know any stay-at-home mothers, except my mother was a stay-at-home mom. Most of my friends, both parents are working. The kids are either in school or daycare or with their grandparents. Yeah, my friends are all working.
Yeah, I think, well, me, I'm like, I know we don't know each other on a very personal level, but I am a stay-at-home mom. I have been for 4 years now. But before that, I was working half day. So my daughter was in school and she was struggling in school, to be honest. Mainstream school was not serving her well. And but I was at home in the afternoons that I could help her with homework and nag her to do her homework that she didn't want to do and all of those things. And her brothers went to a day mom. We did start off with them in daycare, with actually my daughter and my son. At that stage, it was only the two and they were in daycare, but I think that lasted maybe a year. And then I found a day mom, and she's actually now what we call a colored grandma, because she's become family. The whole family has become family. I mean, I went to her son's wedding and everything. They are our extended family, and that worked for us. Whilst that was our plan, it worked at the time, and then I got retrenched, and yeah, now here we are, the stay-at-home mom, and I'm schooling the kids at home because mainstream school just wasn't working out for my daughter. So
yes.
and when I look at how I have to fight with my son, I don't think it would have worked out for him either.
Yeah, I think if I had the choice, I would not send my kids to school. I would also homeschool, if I could, because I think public schooling is horrible, and the curriculums that are out there is complete brainwashing, communist propaganda. When I become president, I will abolish the entire school system. School as we know it will not exist.
It does. It needs reform. So I'm with you on that one.
Yes, definitely.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Paul wants to know if Women's Day is to highlight abuse.
Yeah, that's pretty much. I did want to go back to that comment.
Yeah, that is what is currently going on. It's about women's rights and women's this and women's that, but that is not how it originated. And this is where the left is confusing itself again, because on the one side they shout equality, 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 but then they highlight all the womanly problems and things. And there's a Women's Month, and there's a Women's Day, and I think there was also an International Year of the Women sometime in the past, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, there is an International Women's Day, which is the 8th of March. I remember it because someone in our family's birthday is on that day. And yeah, that just turns into a lefty feminist free-for-all. That's quite gross to watch. So.
Ja, Micha, ek kan Afrikaans praat. Ek is Afrikaans.
Yes, of course moet ek kan Afrikaans praat. Ek kan so 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat. But my English accent comes through and then people laugh at me, so I stop.
Paul, I can't speak for all women. I don't know if all women feel that they still don't have equal rights. I don't believe in equal. I believe in equal opportunity, but there are just some jobs that women should not be doing. Me being in the mining industry, I asked once why we don't have any women in the proto teams, the fire brigade of the mining industry. The people that go underground when there's a fire or when there's a collapse, something, they go out and they rescue other people. So I was like, why aren't there any women in the proto team? And the answer was, well, the chief of the proto team said, let the women come. Come and do the fitness test and do all those things, and we can see if they can do the things required for a proto member. And the women just don't show up. So if the women don't want to do it, don't force them to do it, and don't lower the standards of your proto team to accommodate women, because that is just asking for trouble. If
Absolutely.
You want to send in a whole team, a whole squad of proto women, and they can't lift rocks or they can't move these big men, then, well, you are just digging more graves. So there definitely are some things that women should stay away from. And don't try to feminize the dirty jobs. There's nothing glamorous about mining. Absolutely nothing. I think it is You know, to be working underground, it's gross. It really is a man's world, and no woman should even want to work underground. It's absolutely, it's filthy. Don't do that. There are better things to do.
I think also women have a stronger sense of self-preservation, and it probably also ties into the fact that, you know, we are the future generation. Without women, we can't sustain human life. Okay. So I think that's where their sense of self-preservation comes from. And they tend to stay behind in like wartime and stuff like that, because they are the more nurturing sex. They will provide emotional support for the younger people that need that. They will provide for their own children and other people's children should something happen to the parents, stuff like that. I think it does come from, I think women generally aren't drawn to very, and I'm not saying not all women, okay, because I know we do have female firefighters and female cops and stuff like that, but it's much lower because they have that sense of self-preservation. Whereas men will go out and put themselves on the line to enable the woman to stay behind and look after the future generations. And, you know, we've come back to the puzzle again, where it takes one kind to go out and defend the borders, and for the sake of this example, and someone to stay behind and look after the future that happens within those borders. So I think it's important to remember that.
Yeah, there was I think it was in the United States military. They had a thing. Women are not allowed on the front lines. Women can be in the military, but they are not on the front lines. And there was this whole feminist thing. But why can't women fight? Women can shoot just as well as men, and. But you know, the United States being this great bastion of masculinity, the old America was this great bastion of masculinity, and men went out and they were patriotic and they were fighting, and it was just fantastic in my opinion. The military said women will now be allowed to fight on the front lines, or they were going to be drafted or something, but it was now open for everybody. And immediately the women started tweeting, what? Hell no, I'm not being drafted for the front lines. I'm getting pregnant. There's no way that they're going to get me into the military. So
absolutely,
what do you actually want? Do you want to fight with the boys, or do you want to be a woman? You know, pick one. I would rather, you know, go according to my strengths. But then again, that's why I hate this overarching thing of we talk for all women, we speak for all women. All women should be treated equally. It should be 50% female soldiers and 50% male soldiers. That's nonsense.
Absolutely.
Don't force women to go into combat. They can be medics if they want to. Obviously, if they really want to, if they can pass the fitness tests and the psych tests and all those things, if you have this badass soldier woman, by all means, go for it. But don't lower the standard. Don't lower the standard. That is the thing. Don't make it easier for women. I mean, come on, how much more degrading do you want to be? No, we're going to make it easier for you because we don't believe that you can actually do it. So we're feeling sorry for you, so we're lowering the bar.
I remember, I think, yeah, it is ridiculous. I think it was about a year ago. I saw a headline that the British forces were spending, I don't know how much amount of money on making the kit lighter so that women could fight in combat and not end up needing knee and hip replacements, because apparently that's what was happening. The kit, the uniform, the rifle, everything, that 50, 60, 70 kilos that they were adding onto their bodies to go out into combat was actually degrading their legs. So they were spending money on making it lighter.
Well, they do it in the mining. They do it in the mining industry as well. They make the boots lighter. They make the overalls fit better. They make smaller hard hats and smaller gloves and smaller everything. That's unnecessary. It's unnecessary expenses. I think just standardize it, and if you can't make it, then too bad. Then you are not cut out to be a miner or a soldier or a police officer or something like that. I think women in combat have their places. Women consume less oxygen, so it would make sense to put them on submarines, but hell no.
They're also shorter, so.
No.
Jacob Marberg asked if there's jobs that men shouldn't do. And there's only one that I can think of that maybe not all, for the most part, men wouldn't be suited towards. And that would be like a foundation phase teacher. Because you need to be really compassionate and deal with a lot of emotions in the foundation phase with children. So I think maybe that's one job I can think of that men shouldn't do. I don't know. Can you think of any?
I cannot think of something. In the old days, men were generally teachers and professors and scholars and those things. But men, no, I can't think of anything that they shouldn't be doing. No, but yeah, foundation phase teaching, and maybe is that like grade 0 and grade R?
Yeah, and so like foundation phase, well, you could also include what we call in this country ECD, early childhood development. So like, but my opinion is that kids shouldn't even be in school then. So, they should still be at home or with granny or with a day mom or whatever. So, yeah, I suppose the teaching degree covers grade R to 3. Yeah. So we're talking age 5 to 9.
Yeah, that is something that requires more nurturing. But men can be professors and high school teachers and doctors and all those things.
Yeah, no, I totally excluded that completely. Like, it's seriously only foundational phase. And it's not all men. Some men can do that. Some men can be a kindergarten teacher or a grade 1 teacher or whatever. Not that I've seen them in real life. Yeah, but they can do it. But they're not drawn to it.
Yes, and that's fine. That is 100% fine. If you as a man do not want to be a foundation teacher, then don't do it. Don't go and study education if that's the only thing that you can study. Rather go and find something else or do higher education. But there is something else that men should not be doing, and men should not be women.
Yes. But we're not transphobic. We're not.
No, we're not.
We're not.
We accept all people. We accept all people as they are, But don't come and advertise your transitioning and assume that just because people disagree with you, it's because you're trans. Maybe we just disagree with you because we don't share your point of view. It's got nothing to do with you being trans or whatever. We just don't agree with you. Just this. I've seen a lot of articles and stuff about the trans community being what's the word, discriminated against. But then I look at these pictures and I'm like, if you didn't tell me that you weren't trans, I would not have noticed, because you are such a pretty woman. So
no, absolutely. And this is where it comes back to it as well, is there's a big difference between the trans activists and the real trans people. And the real trans people are very adamant that the trans activists don't talk for them. They don't talk for them, because the real trans people don't do what Caitlyn Jenner did. Okay, they don't. Like, they do it quietly. They want as little fuss made about it as possible, and all of this because honestly, they feel like they were born in the wrong body, and so they take steps to rectify that. But they are a tiny percentage, not what we're seeing now. And that's driven by transit, not anything else. So I'm hoping that I'm going to have a really long conversation with someone that's done a lot of research on this topic. So yeah.
No, that will be great, because like with feminism, mainstream media thinks they talk for all of us, and quite clearly they don't speak for all women, because there are women like you and myself and a bunch of other women that don't buy into this modern feminism thing. I have no problem with men staring at me. I have no problem with dirty jokes, as long as they are not in terribly bad taste. Don't be demeaning towards somebody else. Have a joke at somebody else's expense. That's fine. I make jokes at Jim's expense all the time, and he doesn't get angry at me, because it's and he makes jokes at my expense. It's fine. I mean, what kind of a world will we be when humor is not allowed? That is how people connect like that. It's funny. Yeah. We need laughs, but there is a line where things go too far, and then that's where I'm just like, listen, that's not funny. That's not cool. Just try something else. But I'm not going to throw a hissy fit if somebody tells a joke in really bad taste. I'm not going to be offended about it or call them out for being trash or something. It's just bad taste.
Or get them cancelled.
No.
Exactly. Yeah. Paul wanted me to explain real trans people. So yeah, I'm going to have to save this for another stream where I can actually talk to someone who's done a lot of research into this. And I am still busy reading the books, so I'm not going to get too deep into it now, because it really is a whole other conversation. But I think, oh yes, and we mustn't joke about my husband's shirts. I don't think Maryke's in on the joke about my husband's shirts.
No, I'm not.
But I think Jim would be very happy, because basically the outcome of this conversation is that there's certain jobs that women shouldn't do, but men can do everything.
Yes. Except men can't give birth.
Oh yes, yeah, they can't grow life, they can't grow like new life, and they can't give birth to it, because Yeah, they'd die. They would die. Chandra, I will definitely look that up. Thank you. Are trans people? Yes, there are real trans people. Or I'm not going to be derogatory about it. There is a very, 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 very tiny percentage that does honestly feel like that. It's very tiny, and yeah, the activists are blowing it out of proportion. So, yes. I just wanted to see what someone else was saying. Okay, no, they were commenting about something. Okay. Yeah, I think what really has come out of this conversation is that we really do love men, and we do think that they're great.
Yes, well, obviously.
And that the Women's Day March was not just about women's rights. It was actually about people's rights.
Yeah, it was against the ridiculous pass laws. And it's basically, it's the same thing that we're having today, and I don't see women marching against the lockdown.
No, I don't see South Africans standing together at all.
No, actually. It's quite weird. Well, most of us oppose the lockdown and those things, but we're not all on this, in the same street. There's people are afraid of, gatherings being illegal, and they will get arrested. And yeah, but I would just like to see Cape Town police water cannoning 20,000 women.
Yes.
Stop gender-based violence. You can't water cannon us. We are women. But actually they should, because women are equal to men.
Yeah.
So
but they did actually use the water cannon on some of the marches that happened last year. But yeah, again, they were cowards. They didn't go where the big group of people were, which was outside Parliament and all that in Cape Town. They did it on a group that was like sort of on the outskirts. It was, yeah. But yeah, they did do it.
Yeah, but that will, that just, agrees with our point that women, wait, let me think. The left says don't be violent against women, but they also say equal rights to women. So the left cannot go and complain if women get water cannoned.
No,
and in fact, if women get water cannoned, that's what should be happening according to the lockdown rules. But it should also, according to fighting for women's rights, be condemned, because how dare you water cannon a group of women who are just speaking out their mind?
Absolutely.
So I don't know how the mainstream media is going to spin that one. It will be very interesting to see if it actually would happen.
I can tell you, I got a lot of hate for that, because I shared the post where they had water cannons women, or it wasn't all women. It was everybody was marching against DBV at that time, and I shared the post and I said, you see, your government doesn't care. They do not care about you. If you want to put an end to violence against women, start defending yourself. And gee, did I get attacked, eh? I was like, but your own government that you're trying to protest against has turned on you during your protest. And we have a right to protest in South Africa. We actually do have that.
A constitutional right.
Yes, a constitutional right. And they turned against you. Do you not see that these marches and protests and shutdowns and all of that will actually not change anything? If you want to change the level of violence that is being perpetuated in this country, learn to defend yourself. Don't wait for Big Daddy government to come and sort it out for you, because they don't care.
And they're not going to.
No,
government isn't going to do anything about violence.
No.
I mean, come on, they stopped farmers from patrolling their lands. They stopped farm patrols. They want to stop community patrols. There's this silly curfew going on where everybody obeys it except the criminals. If a guy wants to break into your house, a curfew isn't going to stop it.
No.
And you don't see the police patrolling at night. And some small towns like where I live, the police will say, sorry, we don't have a vehicle available. Or take matters into your own hands. That they actually did tell some of our people that, sorry, we can't help you. Sort it out yourself. So, you know, you are your own first responder. And you can, it's better to be judged by judged by 12 than to be carried by 6, or in South Africa's case be judged by 1, because we don't have a jury system. So, you know, if you are in such a situation, defend yourself and your family, and you worry about the consequences later.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to be dead, to not worry about the consequences. But I'm sure your family would rather want you alive than to bury you. So make a plan, arm yourself, protect yourself, get some training. The government hates you. The government is not going to protect you, whether you are a man or a woman or a child. They don't care. They are in it only to enrich themselves, and because they are power mad dictators. That's it.
Absolutely. Yeah, like Paul was saying, we don't really have a constitution. Well, no, because every single time that we try to exercise our constitutional right, we get water cannoned or worse. So, yes.
And we don't even have support from most of our own people, because, you know, there's a virus out there. It's going to kill you. No, it's not. It might, but you might also die from starvation or suicide, or you can die in a home invasion because people are hungry.
I was just going to say, or that same criminal that doesn't obey the curfew, even though you do, comes in and robs your house. Yeah.
No, you can't rob me. There's a curfew. What are you doing here? No.
Yeah, you know. So yes, we have to take matters into our own hands, and I think Jerem obviously touched on it earlier this afternoon on his stream. Is we have to become self-sufficient. We have to stop turning to government and looking at them to fix the problems. We need to make sure that we can look after ourselves no matter what happens. So
yes. So basically, at this stage, your local farmer is your best friend, because that's where the food comes from. So yeah, you need to form community groups, even though gatherings are still prohibited. Online gatherings are not. And one thing that this lockdown was great for was promoting online meetings, Microsoft Teams, Zoom, the StreamYard, you know, YouTube. There's absolutely no reason why the community cannot get together to discuss matters.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the great things that has come out of lockdown is so many like-minded people meeting and talking and getting this message out there. Like, if it weren't for lockdown, would you and I be having this conversation right now? Would you
Probably not.
Have been on?
No.
Would you have been on Paratus' team?
No.
Would you have been on Germ? Would you know all
yes.
of these things would have? It wouldn't have happened.
This happened
and we
because
wouldn't
of the lockdown.
we wouldn't have known that, like, I'm not a silent minority. I'm actually a silent majority, because there's so many people that feel the same way as me, but they either feel like they don't have the platform to speak out about it, or they are genuinely scared to speak out about it. So, yeah, I suppose that's one good thing that's come out of it, but like, it's happened now, so now lockdown can
Well, we are here now. We've connected, we've made some great networks, and we all know this government sucks, and we all know that what they are trying to do. So this thing is only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the longer the lockdown goes on, the more people are going to realize, listen, this is not cool. There are still some people out there that believe this is just about a virus, even though the numbers are declining. They still think that the virus is the #1 killer out there. That, you know, if you don't wear a mask, you are so selfish and you want people to die. And how would you feel if your parents died, or if your grandparents died? Listen, my grandmother is 85, 86 years old. She has to die someday. And that is, you know, death is a part of life. You cannot escape it. You have to make peace with it, that the people you love are going to die. You can't escape it. They can die in a car accident, which you have no warning, and it is immediate, or it is a gruesome hospital battle, or it's painfully bleeding out in your car. I could have died 5 years ago in a head-on collision, but I didn't. And that would have been immediate, and would have been terribly sad for my parents. But, you know, that's it. People die, and you can't escape that. So if you don't want to die, I get that. If you are in the vulnerable group, then by all means take precautions to protect yourself. Don't let your kids come and visit, or let them just say hello through the window or whatever. If you don't want to get the virus, it's fine. But I am not going to visit everybody in town and spread this thing around. And I am not in danger of getting this. So why must your fear infringe on my freedom? Why can't I go hunting? Who am I going to make sick out there while I'm hunting springbok? Nobody. There's nobody there. It's wide open fields. But apparently this virus also likes to hunt and hang out in the veld, and I don't know,
in the sea,
hang out in movie theaters.
It targets surfers as well. Hey, don't forget that. Sorry, I'm just switching headsets because this one's going to
that. Southern Metalhead says he only watches Pirates for Maryke. That is fine. Thank you. I appreciate that, and I am not at all upset that you are objectifying me.
Yeah, thank you for watching
if we can use it to get more people guns, then by all means, you can. I will use my pretty face to seduce men into buying guns.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, Gentle Inflatables also said best thing lockdown is having met so many great people via these streams. So.
Yeah, and I never thought in a million years that I would be doing this, appearing live, talking about these things, because I usually keep to myself and don't like the sound of my own voice and all those things. But no, at the end of the day, nobody really cares.
No.
And I don't care what people think about me. So why not? If people get upset, then that's their problem. I like this. I like having my ideas out there. I like talking to the people. I like seeing the interactions. It's fantastic. I like to see that there's this growing anti-government movement that is finally coming to light. It's always been there, but it's always been hush hush, and there's still hush hush things going on which we can't talk about. But it's definitely important for us to fight back in the media and online and in real life. Otherwise, the leftists are just going to think they're winning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's address one last comment, because I think it's a good one to go out on. So, ladies, does having a Women's Day really achieve anything lately for women?
It gave us an extra holiday to get housework done. It gave us working women a chance to just rewind.
Yeah, but it also gave like the rest of the country the same holiday. So yeah, I think, you know what, we won the right to vote many years ago. We won the right to buy our own houses and own our own credit cards and bank accounts and all of that a very long time ago. I really don't think we need to be fighting anymore for women's liberation. Women are liberated. They're probably these days more liberated than what men are. If you think about how men have to count their words and really watch what they say and make sure there's no unintended double innuendo anywhere. I definitely think women are far more liberated than men are. So I don't think
there's nothing more to gain.
No, there's nothing more. I can see politicians jumping on today saying that we really need to clamp down on domestic violence and men need to stop being such pigs and whatever. And you know what? I have one message to those politicians. Go out to the streets and talk to the men that actually need to listen to your message. Because the men that need to listen to your message don't watch your Facebook lives, okay? They don't. They don't watch your YouTube streams. Get out on the streets and talk to the men that are actually doing this, because they are a tiny percentage, and that's where you will make a difference. You're not going to make a difference by sending out these messages on Facebook and YouTube and everything that placate the masses. Because, oh, look, he's speaking for us. No, he's not. He's just using words to make you feel better about him. He's not actually doing the work.
I mean, let's just think for a moment. I don't want to drag this out for too long, but if a woman is being abused, I know they say that they're not going to police stations for fear of retribution from their men, from their own men. Okay, but that is the other thing, is that we should empower women to not be afraid. There are ways to get a message to a police station, and then the police also don't. If you get such a claim of domestic abuse, take it serious. Don't think, but it's just them again, and they're just throwing bottles around or whatever. I do think that there are a lot of those cry wolf situations as well. But then there's also real domestic violence happening. And if you as a woman show up at a hospital or a police station, beaten and bruised and bleeding, holy hell, why are those men not behind bars immediately? Immediately. I mean, if they were arrested on the spot, this would not be a problem. So how big of a problem is this really?
Yeah, and if they were actually, the problem actually does lie with the policy and with the police, or lack thereof. And yes, that's why a woman's best chance of leaving a abusive situation is to contact organizations that actually specialize in this, because they will take them through the process steps by step of getting a protection order, how to make sure that that protection order gets enforced. And I think that's where Maryke and I will both say, before you get your protection order, make sure you get a gun. Okay, because the police aren't going to rock up to enforce your protection order in time either.
No.
You know, make sure you have a safe place to go. Make sure that you can get out. And it's only women that follow those steps that actually successfully manage to stay out of an abusive relationship. And it does take women 7 times before they leave for good. On average, it takes 7 times before they leave for good.
And for some women, that might be, 6 times
Too late.
too much. Yeah, 6 times
Yes.
too late.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
I don't think as a woman you need to take any smack from your man.
No.
If he lifts a hand against you, get out. But there's just no excuse to stay in such a relationship. And the same for men. Don't take smack from your woman. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
But try and sort it out first. If it's not violent, try and sort it out first. If it gets violent, get out. Or get a gun, whichever.
Both.
Get a legal gun. A legal gun, please. A
Yes,
legal gun.
A legal gun. Yes, we're not saying like go find one on a street corner. No, that's not what we're saying. We're saying get legally armed. But also, like maybe get one like before you even get into a relationship, which is also another topic for another day that we can probably talk about. So
Definitely.
Okay, I don't want to go too much. I don't want to go too long over an hour, because I do want people to watch the replay. So I think I'm gonna sign off with my normal sign off. Stay safe out there and don't wear a mask if you don't have to. And I'll hand over to my guest to say goodbye to our wonderful viewers.
Beth, thank you so much for having me on. I am really looking forward to having some more of these streams. And to our lovely viewers, please like, subscribe to Beth's channel and share the video around and get the message out there. Tell the people that if they feel like nobody's listening, somebody is always listening. People like to say it doesn't help to complain, but sometimes it does, because somebody might just hear your complaint or your prayer and do something about it. We are all brothers and sisters in arms. We all share a common hardship, if I can put it that way. So there's no reason to ever feel alone or lonely, or feel like nobody listens or nobody cares. People do care. We are out there, and have a safe and glorious Woe Man's Day further.
Woe Man's Day, I like that. Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Bye.